committee to order. First item, approval of the November 2nd building committee minutes.
Second.
Any additions, deletions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 2, facilities update. Mr. Todd.
Good evening. Start where I always do with custodial. Happy to announce we're fully staffed in custodial. The new paper towel dispensers have arrived. We're working to install them over winter break. We were able to complete some further carpet cleaning training, and new uniforms have arrived. It was part of the last collective bargaining agreement. We're putting in new uniforms out, and on the left you could see my shop is starting to look a bit like Filene's basement with all the uniforms coming through. And here's Mr. Gray demonstrating one of the new uniforms. Grounds, we are fully staffed. We dug out 6 inches of the middle school baseball field infield. We're going to, because we had to rent a piece of equipment for another project. We had the equipment here, so we figured let's use it. We will infill this in the early spring and have that field definitely playable before JV needs to get out there. Maintenance, we are fully staffed. If you were listening, you heard me say fully staffed, fully staffed, fully staffed. I think that's the first time in the 10 years I've been here that I've been able to tell you that, so yay. On the left, you see a little bit of surprise floor damage. There was a roof leak in the stair tower at Maple Street Magnet School, and some of the tiles we had fixed the roof leak a while ago. Some of the tiles were starting to flake up, so we pulled them up, and we found a lot more damage under there than we were expecting. Just goes to show you never know what you're going to get into in maintenance stuff. On the right, I just wanted to call your attention. We installed some our own backup lights on a couple of our trucks. On the sander, that's especially important, so you can look in the mirror and know if you're actually throwing sand or not, to have a bright light back there. And they're also a great safety feature for the other trucks. So we'll be looking to put this on some more trucks. Great safety thing, low cost. Our JCB loader that you've heard me talk so much about is back in the shop. If you remember, just over a year ago, we had about $20,000 worth of repair. We negotiated that down to about $14,000 and got that back up and running. It just went back into the shop and came back out after a $3,000 repair. The $20,000 was the entire hydraulic system failed. Most recently than that, it had lost compression. And there was a valve that was stuck. They got that figured out, and now it's back in. What we started doing is we trailer it. Now that we have a trailer, it can move that machine, and we bring it right to them so they don't have to send people out to us to work on it, which is cutting down a little bit on cost. But we're close to $20,000 in close to 12 months. It's a little bit ridiculous. It's about $130,000 to replace that machine. I can't replace it anytime soon, because I need it for this winter to move snow. So we're going to get it fixed. Maybe in the next budget cycle, we're going to talk about getting rid of that machine. A couple of heating issues that came up today. We lost the modular heat. This is at William Allen School. The heater you're looking at on the outside of the building was built in April of 21. It's failed completely on the heating components. The cooling part of it still works, so we're going to leave it there and use the cooling in the spring when it starts to warm up outside. And we're going to install some electric baseboard heat inside to keep that classroom warm. That's going to be our low-cost solution to get heat out of that before we can get rid of the modulars and be out of those spaces. There's another heater on the other side of this modular. There's 2 classrooms, they each have a heater, and there's 4 more of them at Chamberlain Street. They're all kind of, we're keeping our fingers crossed. That'll be back up and running no later than Saturday. Had another heating failure at Gonick School today. There's 4 circulator pumps. There's 2 gangs of 2 that provide redundancy. And 1 gang of 2, both pumps failed, which is kind of statistically surprising that both pumps failed. One of them was leaking, which caused the system to not be able to keep up, which brought the other 2 pumps down. So now you have no circulator pumps in the building. Very quickly, we were able to get 2 of the pumps back up. We gave heat to half of the building. And then out of the first 2 that failed, we jerry-rigged 1 to run right now, and we're working to get a full repair on both of those pumps. What you're looking at here is for the building automation system, and it's kind of cool. You can see this is yesterday, just after 3 p.m. This is room temperature. The building switches to unoccupied at this point, and overnight, the temperature of the room continues to fall to just before 6 a.m. It's about 5:45 a.m., the building switches back to occupied mode, and the heat in the classroom starts to go up, and then you can see something fail. That's where the pump's kicked out, and this is when we got it back up and fixed. So we had just about 62 degrees was the low temperature in the building today, and just wanted to bring that to your attention. Spalding High School band and chorus renovations, the design is in progress. Hopefully have some drawings to share with you maybe next month. I'm not sure if we're going to have a committee meeting next month with reseating a new board, but I'll let you tell me, and if we do, I'll have pictures for you. If not, we'll see them in February. Air quality improvement projects, controls project, 100%. Middle school VAV project, 100%. So that means all of the ESSER 2 funded construction projects are complete, done, billed, over. I don't think I've said that out loud yet, so I wanted to share that with you. The remaining project is ESSER 3 funded. And what you're looking at here is 3 new rooftops on the Spalding High School, the water wing. Those are set, they're not turned on yet, they're just set in place. They will serve cafeteria, library, and art space. We've got some structural steel improvements to do in that section of the building, and then we'll end up putting 2 more units up there that will serve classrooms on the east side of the building. The auditorium radiant heat panels are up and running and just fine-tuning the controls now. Work orders for the period November 1st through November 30th. We completed 64 work orders, down from 108 the last reporting period, created 104 work orders, down from 145 previous period. Gives us a close ratio of 0.62 to 1, down from 0.75 to 1. Now we have open 38 work orders from the November crop with an average days of assigned to completed for a work order of 8.58, up a little bit from 6 in the last reporting period. This is just one of the views I like to share with you each month. This is work orders assigned by user, and this will show me that this user, Tom Gray, who we saw demonstrating a new uniform earlier, was assigned 28 work orders. He completed 16 of those, and the balance are still waiting to be completed. So we can see not just how many work orders went to each person, but what they did with them. And that guy way down there on the right, he only got 1 work order assigned to him, and he hasn't done anything with it yet. I'm gonna have to have a talk with him. That's all I have for facilities update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. Does anyone have any questions? Paul?
Mr. Talley, with the EPA continuing to make all these amendments and adjustments to refrigerant in the rooftop units, do you know what we're running in those exchangers?
You call me off guard here. I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
You know,
But yeah, it's been an ever influx. I just bought a new refrigerator for my house, and it has R500 in it, which I had never heard of. R500 is butane. They filled my refrigerator with lighter fluid. Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on for refrigerants.
And I know they're making a lot of amendments. I was talking with someone the other day specifically about a carrier that's still running R32, and he's like, to buy it is astronomical. So as we continue to move forward, just be cognizant that EPA regulation is going to continue to change and impact us financially. So
yeah, when I started the industry, it was CFCs, and then it went to HCFCs, and then it went to FCA. I can promise you that the units we're landing on the roof are at the 4 of that evolution.
that's all I wanted, sir. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have a question? Go ahead, Jim.
So, Dave, just to revisit the JCB loader, it's costing again another, what's?
So the bill sitting on my desk right now is for $3,100. It came back, and we got about 3 or 4 weeks out of it. Most of that time it was just sitting in the barn, right? Because it hadn't been snowing, we weren't using it a lot. As soon as we deployed it, we found more failures. So I spent a lot of time on the phone with the service manager at the JCB today, and I intend to work with him, or I intend to make sure he works with us on the billing. What he's saying is it's an intermittent problem, right? And that's what we're seeing too. So you bring it in, they turn it on, they got to get it warm because that's when it's going to see the failure. So they have to pay a mechanic to drive the machine around the yard and pretend like he's moving dirt around until it gets warmed up enough for it to fail. They do that for a little while, it doesn't fail, he tries again later. It starts to fail. By the time he gets the cabinet open and he starts to tear it apart, they can't tell what's going on because it isn't in failure mode anymore. So, there is some legitimacy on their end to how long it's taking. But $20,000 in a 14-month period for repairs on a piece of equipment,
Right.
I can't
I
see
agree,
that.
and, you know, let's, to be honest with you, I'm sick of pig, but, so, is there, because of its crucial job, if you will, in the winter months, have we looked at a winter lease of a loader or something to get us through the next 3 months, 3.5 months?
I haven't explored a lease of equipment, I'm confident we can repair this, and.
Well,
And my
I mean,
fallback position, if this were to fail in the middle of a snowstorm, is I want to reach out to the
this is
city.
running down the line to modulars, okay, in
Sure.
regards to dumping money
Sure.
into,
So, and
you know, bad money.
And when I first started talking about the JVC, the point I guess I'd love the board to hear is we make decisions, we put things out to bid, and we make decisions on low bidder. And that's what this was. We bought this because it was significantly less than any other machine on the market. And the reason it's significantly less is you can't get parts for it from anywhere in the world but from them. Nobody in the world can work on it but them. And they got you on the service and the maintenance, and they make their money back. So I guess that's kind of one of the takeaways here with this equipment.
Anyone else have questions? Mr. Claudio? Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
Item number 3, window security film installation bid.
Okay, this one's a little bit surprising. So to remind you, we have received grant money, the Stronger Connections Grant. There's an allocation to Rochester for $553,508.90. Once we got the grant, we went out to bid to put security film on all of the first floor windows in all of the schools. These are so you can't, it doesn't make the windows bulletproof, but it makes them smash proof. It takes you a little while to get through the glass. By a little while, I mean 20 minutes to hack your way through it. So it's a great security feature. It's been recommended to us at every Homeland Security inspection that I've been a part of. It's always something we've wanted to do. We just hadn't had the money locally to do it. Now we've got the money coming in. So we had a surprise when we opened it. There's two bidders. National Glazing Solutions bid $202,231.54. Surface Dynamics bid $489,236.95. That is an enormous delta, right? So I'll just share with you some information about this. Before this went out to bid, when we were talking about reaching out for the grant, we did our own research. We went and took a rough measurement of every single window we were going to try to put out to bid. We talked to vendors to get a square foot price of what we thought this project would cost. The vendor we got that information from did not bid on this project, so he's not represented here. But based on all of those numbers, we thought this was going to be in the $500,000 range. So the 489 fits very much with what we were expecting. The 202 is a little bit scary low to me. So where are these two bids similar? Both contractors, when you dig into their numbers, they're talking about 16,000 square feet of material. Both contractors are carrying very similar quantities of the 4 types of material that would be involved in the installation. There is security film, and there's solar film. In some windows are so big that you don't have to do security up top. You do solar up top because but you want the same look all the way across the window. So you save some money by putting solar up top. Down 95 is basically the caulk that glues it into place. And in places where the caulk won't work, there's a tape system. And they've all included all the right numbers of stuff. Both contractors, I've called them and talked about their numbers, and they've reviewed them, and they're both standing behind their numbers. They're both telling me they can do this for this amount. With that caveat, I'll only add the caveat that National Glazing Systems got back to me and said, we did find a mistake. Not a $200,000 mistake, we found a $10,000 mistake. So we'd like to bid $212,000. I said, well, you can't do that. Now that we both know, like, you have to tell me, can you do the work for 202, but give me the 212 project? He talked to his supervisors, he got to and said, yes, we can do that. That makes me a little nervous. Where their difference is in the square foot price. Surface Dynamics is about $29.25 a square foot. NGS is at $12.50 a square foot. If you try to look at national averages of square foot price, and that's never a good way to approach something, what you'll see is that 29 is really high for a national average and 12 is really low for a national average. I'd be very comfortable with a number right in the middle, but I don't have that. Excuse me. Surface Dynamics is a family-owned company in Windham, New Hampshire. That says a lot to me, because when a window breaks, and I gotta replace it, and I gotta match it, I got a guy in Wyndham that I can call to come do it. Or if I develop an air bubble in 6 months and I want it fixed, I got a guy in Wyndham I can call to come do it. NGS is probably the largest company in the country doing this, which makes them probably the largest company in the world doing this. They have offices all over the country. They're headquartered in Georgia. Their closest office is Long Island, New York. So the crews that would do an installation for them would probably be sourced out of New York or Massachusetts. Service Dynamics is proposing a Dow Corning product. NGS is proposing the Solar Guard product. That's the one we spec'd. And we spec'd it because we thought the Dow Corning product was, with the name brand, sometimes you pay a little bit more, so we opted to go with the alternate name. So I'm sure they're equal products, but Service Dynamics at least has a little more name recognition behind the brand. Service Dynamics can give us new school references, New Hampshire schools, and I've spoken to directors of facility at Hooksett and Candia, who both said, yes, we work with them, they're great. NGS can give me recommendations all across the country. None of them are schools in New Hampshire. So I'd be certainly open to hearing your thoughts on this, but based on that, I would recommend that we accept Service Dynamics at $489,236.95. And let me add this last little piece. The grant dollars that we don't spend, they could be reallocated within the very narrow confines of what the grant was designed to accomplish. So if we save $200,000 on this, we can't spend it on anything we want. We could spend it on more window glazing, which would be, I'd be glazing second and third floor windows, which would be a little bit pointless because this is about people running up and smashing their way through. So saving the money doesn't get us any different other options.
Mr. Vitale, speaking specifically to the manufacturers of the smash tape, whatever they're calling it, Dow Corning versus the Solar Guard, did you find any warranty difference between the two manufacturers?
No, sir.
No. Okay, thank you.
Dave, do you know if there were any sites in Massachusetts or Connecticut or Rhode Island that we could get opinion on national glazing?
Yes, there are copious amounts of sites all over the country where you can get opinion on national glazing. And I believe they're going to tell you that they did a fine job. You don't become the biggest installer in the country by not doing a fine job. My concern is support to the project after the fact. And one of the things, like when you look at these, almost with the exception of the middle school where there's 8,000 of this exact same window, these become really, every window you walk up to is a tiny bit different, and it's a custom job on each one. If an installation crew is starting with a project that's already $11,000 in the hole, their boss is saying, come on, go, 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 slap it up, nobody's gonna look at it, nobody's gonna know. And I'm afraid that if they're racing to catch up from behind the 8 ball, that they're gonna take shortcuts, and it's just something that scares me.
Jane?
Is this tinted or not tinted?
This is tinted. I spoke with Chief Boudreau and asked, because that's kind of a double-edged sword, right? The tinted, bad guys can't see in, good guys can't see in either. So I got Chief Boudreau's input, and he said that he'd like to see tinted.
Yeah, we had that conversation. Yeah, I was hoping for the tinted, just mainly for the elementary schools, because during the lockdown, they're kind of like a sit and duck. Because you got the windows up above,
Sure.
McClellan and Chamberlain, and then you got the windows outside. So they're kind of when they do a lockdown, they're kind of where's the best place to.
Sure. So this will tint
it's
the
having
outside windows.
That's what's gonna, and when it would be the time frame these would get put in?
So as soon as we can start on the project, it's a huge project. The grant funds have to be expended by, I think it's September of ¡25. The goal would be to get most all of it done this summer. That's a big ask. There's a lot of windows, and the problem is you have to go around twice. You have to go around once and put the tinting up. That goes on wet, and then after it dries, and only after it dries, you come back around and put the security element on. And depending on the solar exposure of the window, that drying period can be anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months.
Karen?
I mean, we hire Mr. Toddy to make the best decisions, and it's a safety kind of issue, so we're only gonna know when somebody tries to break the window. So, I mean, if the person that we're hiring is saying, I'm asking for the bigger price, and it's really not gonna affect anything, I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer that we go with what he's recommending, because if it fails, it's on you. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, you're the expert, that's why we pay you, so I would support the Surface Dynamics.
Go ahead.
I agree. I just think, you know, it's a kind of a get what you pay for type situation. And that's such a difference in price moving forward. And to have the resource local, it doesn't make sense for us to go low. I mean, look at the JBC situation, right? You know, we paid less for that machine and we're investing more money to fix that machine, so. And if we have the funding to cover it, then it's not an issue.
I'd just like to make the point that because they are such a large company, that's probably the reason why their supply cost is lower.
Yeah.
So I don't think necessarily because it's so much cheaper that the quality isn't going to be there.
What's the
but-
benefit of saving the $269,000? You have a grant that exceeds what the cost will be.
I guess
and can't
spending
use your
money
grant
just
funding
because
for
we can
anything
doesn't
else.
mean we should, but.
Yeah.
Matt, you have a comment?
Can you go back to the page that had the products of by each vendor? So I looked up online, just trying to compare the two. And one side I have here is telling me that the Solar Guard Armor Coat, which is what National Glazing Solutions is saying, is the film that goes on the window that, you know, if you smash it, holds it together. But they're also saying, once you put that on, you have to use the Dow Corning 995 wet glaze to attach that to the frame.
Sure, so if can I jump in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
When I talked about the similarity in the products, safety film and solar film, those are the two that you're talking about, Dow 995, that's the product you were just mentioning.
So
Dow
they're both-
995 won't work on every single window. It requires a ½ inch of reveal in order to give it enough strength to do what you want it to do. So any window that doesn't have that ½ inch, there's a tape system. So another failure with the Dow is if I take a wooden mullion and I put individual safety film and then caulk to the wood, it's only as strong as the wood, right? It's gonna break at the wood, and we have some of them out there. So there's, you know, that's where it starts to get to, oh wow, every single one of these you gotta look at hard and decide what's the best way to do this room and this window. And that's why I want people that have some time and some money, some funds to do the project.
Right. So the one company that says Dow Corning, they're probably using Dow Corning film and Dow Corning 995 stuff.
Correct.
100%.
Yeah, the Dow is, you see it used in conjunction with all the manufacturers.
My one thought is, you know, I don't see it as necessarily spending money because we have it. It's the liability we get into. If we go with the half price thing, save money on this thing, and then something happens, then we're liability of, oh, you guys cut corners, even though we're trying to do something. Oh, the district's trying to cut corners, and then we get a lot of fingers pointed at us. I just have to trust in the professional opinion of
To Ms. Stevens' point about we don't want to just spend money because there's money to spend, and I get that, knowing that NGS is coming into it $10,000 behind already. That's, you know, a good chunk of their profit margin. So my thought process was, well, maybe we hire them and I say to them, hey, if you get in trouble, come to me for a change order. Well, now I've just given an open checkbook to a contractor, right? I'm not interested in doing that either, because then they already know the other number too. So how quickly would the change orders get us right to where we needed to be, where the first number was?
I would be happy to make the motion. I'm a fan of using parallel products. With that being said, having the tint, and the solar and the safety film from the same manufacturer, we've all seen this before where they use, you know, for mats like Leviton versus Siemens, and all of a sudden there's something that doesn't quite line up. The significance in the warranty accountability can transfer there by having the same manufacturer for both. It's just cleaner, in my opinion. So I'd be fine making the motion to approve Service Dynamics in the amount of $489,236.95.
I'll second.
Do we have a question? Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah. Exactly what do I get when I buy security film and have it installed? What are we doing?
It's a film, just you tint your windows, right? It's just like tinting windows, except for this film is extremely tear resistant. So we tint the window, and then what that Down 995 product does is you go around the edge of the window and you bond that tinting membrane to the window frame. So now the whole thing becomes one unit. If you take a baseball bat and smash that tinted window, all the glass will break, but that tinting membrane won't. It will stay right there. And you can search up these companies and look at videos where they've done this to a door, and there's people going at it with a baseball bat. It literally takes them 20 minutes to get through a piece of glass with a baseball bat, because the glass has already failed. The film is holding intact.
So how's it work with bullets?
Bullets will penetrate it. It's not bulletproof.
Well, I can show you the video right here.
It's a windshield versus a side window of your car.
Right.
I don't even see the point in it, frankly.
If I may though, and also you heard it talk about good guys and bad guys. You can't see through these, so being tinted, if I'm outside of the building, if I were to be a shooter, I can't see if anyone's even in that room. Or if there's one person, I can't tell if standing on the right side of the room or the left side of the room. So from the safety standpoint of, nobody knows where everyone is, and then if I do physically want to go through that window and attack someone, it's gonna take me 20 minutes, and first responders are gonna get me before I get through the window. So it's really about like the delay and the security of, if the bad guys don't know where people are, they can't get to them. So that's why it's important.
It gives you a minute to activate a classroom to walk on the glass.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Sarah.
So it's tinted. If you're on the outside, is it also like reflective, like a mirror? Is it like a mirror image? When
That's
you
what,
look at
yeah,
it
when
from
we
the
don't have the
outside,
tinted.
it's a mirror,
Yes.
so you see your reflection?
So it's not gonna be a complete mirror finish, because they measure that in percentage of tint. So it won't be like a complete mirror finish, but yeah, you would see yourself, and it would be very difficult to see through.
And the upstairs windows would match that facade? They would match that?
The second floor windows won't. This would be just the first floor windows, and, this is the Dow product.
So they'll look totally different than the
Yes.
second floor windows.
Yes.
Aesthetically, what does that do?
Well, so that's where we got into, some of the giant sashes at the high school. The lower sash is one you would want to protect. The upper sash is outside of the protection range. So we've got a film which is just solar protection, which is the same, it will look the same. You won't know which one's which when that goes in. So all the first floor windows will have this, the second floor windows will remain as they are.
Sandy?
So why does that look black? Silver. Oh, it looks just colored, all right, like that, okay. Okay.
Any
So,
other questions?
I mean,
Go
so
ahead.
we're riding down the street and every window is gonna be looking like it's got shades pulled, right? Is that the idea?
It's gonna look silvery like this.
Okay.
Is that for all the schools?
Yes. It does not include the schools that we're talking about closing. So School Street's not on part of the menu. And when we get this contractor up and running, I will probably talk to them about finding some local dollars to take care of schools. There's not much at School Street, and getting that included for the amount of time we're still gonna have people there, I think it's something you'll hear me talk about before too long.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
The, what is it, Surface Dynamics?
Surface Dynamics, yeah.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, thank you. Next, Great Bay Partnership.
Okay, so we came to you last month, Ms. Halligan Foley. Let's get caught up here. Just to refresh your memory, we're talking about entering a partnership with Great Bay, whose welding lab will soon be looking for a new home, and we're talking about maybe building out this space behind the tech center to accommodate a welding lab that would then create a new welding program for our students and be able to be used by Great Bay students at night in the same fashion that they now use the auto shop at night. The board asked back, so is Great Bay gonna come to the table with dollars? And we said, well, let's go back and meet with them. And we had that meeting, and their answer is yes, they will certainly entertain that. So now we're taking a little bit of a deeper dive to figure out exactly what the program would look like, so we can figure out what the dollars would be, so we can figure out what Great Bay might be willing to support to come back to you all with a more finely tuned proposal. So it's just a work in progress at this point.
Go ahead, Paul.
Mr. Toddy, and that includes the electric, we need to service the equipment, correct? The building can handle the electric required to run the additional machines?
There is, yes, yes, sir.
Just want to make sure we continue to repeat that.
Next, Spalding High School, Sheila Colson sign.
Okay, so if you will remember, in this room on 5 May 22, the building committee moved to recommend to the full board to accept a naming proposal in which Spalding High School softball field would be named the Sheila Colson Field. That proposal it detailed private fundraising that would acquire and mount a new sign on the flagpoles of the existing sign for a total cost of $631. The whole project was to be supported through private fundraising. That went to full board on 12 May. Full board unanimously approved the motion. So as we got into this, so this is the softball scoreboard, and the heavier posts at the bottom are the actual frame that's holding up the scoreboard. The skinnier posts up top are not sign frame, those are flagpoles, and that's where this sign was going to mount. Some of you may recall we had to tear down the football scoreboard not too long ago because we found all the superstructure holding it up was rotted and it was in danger of falling. This system isn't much different than the one that we had there, and it's not in great shape. This is one of the welds that's holding up the flagpoles. I'll tell you, I took one class in welding 5 years ago, and I could probably weld that good today. This is the 4x4 post that's holding up the sign. They're open capped. There's no cap, so water can go down inside, and that water doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there and eats up metal. Same thing with these flagpoles. So before I allowed anyone to mount anything on the flagpoles, I said, well, you have to get an engineer or a contractor, a sign guy to say, this is okay, we can do this. They were unable to do that. So I stepped in and brought in my sign guy, who looked at it and said, well, what you need to do is put in 2 new 6x6 I-beams. You need to put a concrete base under it that's 12 feet wide, 4 feet deep, and 5 foot deep. That's a lot of concrete, but if you think about it, anytime you put up a sign, it's a sail, right? This is the force that can send ships around the world. It can knock down bridges. It's powerful. Sign construction is part of the building code. It's part of the building code for a reason, because people don't think about how much wind can do. So this is the safe design. Problem is this cost, we got a proposal to do this for $9,500 in May. I gave that back to the people that had done the private fundraising and said, can you do some more fundraising? Come up with $9,500. They said, no, we can't do any more fundraising. So what my department did, go back to this picture. So the scoreboard sits outside of the fence. This is the fence. These are composite decking boards that were warped. They were sitting in the scrap pile. We got them for about $4 a piece. We mounted them to the fence, right? And then we mounted the sign to it. So we took some criticism. People were saying, oh, that sign's in the ground. It's sitting in the ground. It wasn't sitting in the ground. It was sitting on the fence, mounted at an extremely cost-effective way. Seasons changed. We took the sign inside to keep it up out of the snow. Did that to protect the sign. Moving forward, for really no cost, we can bring the sign right out that door, walk it over here, mount it every spring. We can unscrew it and walk it right back in that door and put it away every winter. We can keep that up in perpetuity. Short of that, we need to find what is now, so it was $9,500 in May. More recently, I spoke just this week with Scoreboard Enterprises in Mansfield, Mass. They're the ones we bought the sign from originally. They're saying you're in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. So this board never approved any expenditure of $10,000 to $15,000 to put up the sign. The people that were fundraising for the sign can't come up with that money. So I guess I look to you to tell me to continue doing what I'm doing with the sign, or to tell me to go find more money, or, well, I'm not sure what y'all want to tell me to do, but that's where we're at.
Mr. Todd, the football sign was a problem. We ran into all sorts of issues after, and it was just something we weren't cognizant about it. You know, wasn't, no ill intent, correct?
Correct.
In your opinion, not talking about the sign, the scoreboard, is that in jeopardy on the current post it sits on?
On the, not currently, but I think within, because of the age of the thing, within a few years, I'm gonna be talking about redoing all of that. Right now, I don't believe it's a safety issue. I was out there climbing on it, banging it around, trying to get it to move, and I couldn't. So I think we're okay for now. As soon as we start to see some rust coming through on that metal, we're gonna move to go ahead and do the $15,000 project as part of, probably it would be a cash CIP expenditure. At that point, we would design the thing strong enough to accommodate the signage that we wanna have up there.
Could you put it on the radar, Dave, for a future budget as a
Sure,
project?
it's absolutely on my radar for
And maybe we
future
could keep going the way
projects.
we are for now, until we can afford to, I think we should do, if we're gonna do it, we should do it well. That's my opinion. Go ahead, Paul.
I was going to look to Mr. Boyer, just because I want to make sure I'm doing this properly. This is something we can add to the 5-year parking lot, correct?
Yes, it is.
So if we put it in the 5-year parking lot, it's on the agenda for action items for the board moving forward. Building can then move it up as a prioritization at the correct time. But it's something that should be monitored in progress, but we can add that here.
So in your 5-year parking lot, you have Spalding High School athletic improvements
Yeah.
is already your number one thing.
It's true.
And this would be right under that umbrella of all the things that we want to look at.
Okay. Good enough.
What he
Just trying to
said.
make sure we had a mechanism for it, that's all.
No, he does.
Go ahead, Shane.
So, I was the one that, somebody came to me and said that it was sitting in the mud, so that's why I addressed it. So when it's sitting on on the fence, it's not on the ground at all. It's off the ground, just, as long as are we able to make sure it's just off the ground a little bit?
The grass is gonna grow, yeah, I can keep it off the ground a little bit. It's not
I
gonna be
just
a
wanna make
lot.
sure it doesn't wear after
Sure,
and being in the ground. Yeah, it's good that we pull it out in the weather, I just wanna make sure over time, doing it for a few years, something doesn't happen.
no, yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the comparative numbers, it was a $600 sign, and it's a, $10,000 to $15,000 installation. So at the time we were doing the $10,000 to $15,000 project, if we needed to put another $600 into a sign, we could probably find a way to accommodate that.
Go ahead, Dave.
Dave, are those boards on the fence post? Is that's what that's mounted on?
Yes, they're mounted onto, well, I don't believe there's a bottom rail on this fence, so there's a top rail that's mounted to, but then you got two uprights.
Top rail and 2 posts?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, again, kind of just to sign preservation and whatnot, just making sure whether it be, weed whacked or mowed, when that sign is out there, in the winter months, if we're gonna take it in and we're gonna preserve it that way, but for the seasonal maintenance of, mowing the grass and upkeep or whatever, just making sure that that's, people are cognizant of it when it's being done, obviously. But,
Do we need any motion or anything?
No, sorry, if I
No,
may.
that's
As Mr. Bowyer and Mr. Tati brought up, the number one in the parking lot, we have to move it from the parking lot north, is the athletic fields and facilities, and this would fall under that scope of work. Thank you for reminding me, I just want to make sure we had it somewhere as an action, where we can go back to it if we need it.
Great. Anybody else have anything under this topic? Next item, disc golf gift.
So this is very much same conversation. This is a picture of an existing disc golf course that we have at Spalding High, around Spalding and Crete, around the campus. This was made by students at the tech center and installed. Some of them have gone, I know there's at least 2 holes if that's what you call it, disc golf, that have gone missing. One was subsumed in the expansion of the tech center, and the other, I think, went to a plow. They're not in the best shape, as you can see, but we have some makings of a disc golf course. The rec department pulled, and you can jump in any time on details, sir, if I'm getting them wrong, they pulled a disc golf course out of somewhere, and it was in pretty good shape, and they said to Mr. Hebert, hey, would you like it? Mr. Hebert said, that'd be great. And he said, hey, can we ever get this installed? And I said, yeah, I mean, I don't have any money to do it, I don't have a budget to do it, and at the time, I didn't have the manpower to do it. Fully staffed now, but I don't necessarily have the equipment to do it. If I were to do it all in 1 week, I would have to rent probably a $3,000 piece of equipment, and have another few $1,000s in cement and labor. So, you know, maybe the low end of things, $5,000. I know nothing about laying out a disc golf course. I guess I would have to ask maybe the rec department and the athletic department could figure out where we want to put this thing. And we go ahead and pull out all the ones we have and put in the new ones. But when we get a gift without dollars associated with how we're going to do anything with that gift, it becomes, gift isn't maybe the right word anymore. So I don't know how to proceed here.
I love the charity that the rec department's trying to share with us here, but is there even a curriculum part of the athletic department where disc golf's part of it? Like, do they even teach that in high school? There's a huge following for disc golf, I'm not discrediting it, but I personally don't like the aesthetics of it. We're trying to make our campus look a little nicer. We have the pines across the track. There's 100 places to put this thing. I just don't know if it makes sense in the athletic comp. I think some due diligence has to be done between you and the cost to be what it is we can do with it. And two, does the high school see a need in having it? Has anyone used the course where it lies?
Yes,
Like that's,
they do.
who does?
Is that?
It's awesome. I'm glad they do. I've never seen any. So,
Yeah,
So,
it's a unit.
the history of this is, so the Squamish
yeah.
disc golf, all different plays. The school, or Mr. Hebert apparently, or there was the opportunity to get some baskets. Mr. Hebert submitted a letter, and I believe they got 9. I don't even know the number they got. It wasn't the full detail or whatever. And I believe the intention was to replace these. I don't know if those baskets are gonna get, if you will, downgraded or shifted to another school or whatever, or, you know, if they're gonna be replaced in place, or a new course, or you know. It was just, it was raised up at the rec committee, as far as, I guess, you don't have possession of these, correct?
Correct.
They're still being stored at the rec or
Correct.
whatever, so it was one of those, are you taking them or not?
Yeah.
Type of thing, is how the conversation came to be, so.
So if I could make a suggestion, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
So we just talked about the sign and the athletic, the 5-year plan. I mean, this could be another piece of what we consider when we dig in and consider what we're going to do with that whole complex.
Shane?
So I think disc golf is very popular now with high school and even the junior highs. And if something we can do to do this, whether it's on the 5-year or sooner, I think it'd be beneficial for our school.
I was just gonna say, I might make a recommendation to the finance committee as you start to prepare the budget for next year, that you consider this gift, right? And whether it be the high school athletic department, right? Or it be Mr. Toddy's facilities department, that you look to increase it by $5,000 to $8,000 to accommodate this project moving forward. You know, you can accept the gift, right? But then it's the plan to install, and you have to plan for that, so.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, I have to agree with Mr. Lynch, which isn't very often, but I do on this issue. I don't see kids using it during the day at all. And there's a great facility down in Glenn that the rec department takes care of, and they have tournaments there all the time, and it's I just don't see it as being, but certainly I agree with you on the aesthetics too, that that's a crappy place for it.
Mr. Pappas?
It looks like these were installed like 25, 30 years ago. And for those of you who don't know, we have a student in the district that is a nationally ranked player of this sport. And he gets paid to do it, a lot of money to do it. So, you know, and if you look at center field on the baseball field, on the outside of the fence, one of these has been completely consumed by one of the pine trees that are out there. So that one's can't even be used. But I think if this is set up correctly and if they are put in places where they can be used, that it is something that can foster a new sport, a new love of a sport, that this is something that might be attractive to somebody who's not a soccer player, not a baseball player, not a football player.
It's a great rec program.
Yeah, but we can't bus kids out to Squanamagonik
Playing it
but-
in high school.
because they're in this condition, Sandy. That's what
No,
I'm
that's not.
saying. They're not in playable condition. So
That's not why they're not using it.
Sandy, let him speak.
can I talk, please? But I think if, when you look at where they're located, they're in kind of these weird random spots where, you know, in the last 20 years, other things have been put in. I think down the road, if you plan it right, they can be installed, and it doesn't have to be 9, you can put 5 in, or whatever, and you can foster a love of a sport, and that is the purpose of the phys ed department, is to foster a love of activity and sport, and if it's something new, great, and it's taking off around the country.
Karen?
I mean, again, we asked Kevin Hebert if he wanted it, who is our athletic director, who we pay. So if Kevin's saying that it's useful, I would assume if kids aren't playing it, Kevin would say, no thanks. So, I mean, it sounds like our athletic director is saying he wants to use it. It sounds like we have proof here that at least there's one person playing it. I don't think we're centrally located, so it'd be great if kids are gonna use it around here instead of going to Squanamagonik, which I just love saying that word. But I mean, just saying. It just sounds as though what you're saying is, I just don't have it in the budget. So, I mean, we do have a budget cycle coming up. It sounds like it's something that we could say thank you for the gift and potentially put it up. But again, I think that we have to also include the upkeep, because if we put it up like we did now and then pine trees start growing over it, it's still not gonna help. I know a little bit about it because there's 3 different Frisbee sizes and weights. So, I mean, that was gonna be my next question is, if we put these up, do we have the material for somebody to be able to use it, or do they have to bring their own? Because it just seems something odd that you would have to get disc golf Frisbee thing. So is that something that's even, like, are they gonna donate that as well, or is that, you know what I mean? So put them up, but if there's nothing to go with it, I don't know. That would be my next question.
I think they do it for Zed, is my understanding.
Say that again, I didn't hear it.
They do it for Zed.
Okay, so we would have
We
it.
have something within the school system,
Yeah,
they regulation, I don't know if they're regulation, you know, the putter,
Yep.
the driver and all that, but
Shane?
Kind of where you're going with that, I think if we put it in where they're usable with 9 holes, as you said, we probably got 9 of them, we could utilize it in our phys ed program, because the discs aren't that expensive. They're not that expensive.
Just to position, this is the second time we've talked about the athletic complex in this one meeting.
Right.
Maybe we need to really move that assessment of the athletic complex up. We know the track is coming up, we know the lighting's an issue, now we're talking about the disc golf and the sign, like there's a lot of these things that seem to be popping their head up over there, that may be the next prioritization, is to move that athletic complex up the list on the 5-year plan, and really get an assessment of how deep you gotta get into this thing. I mean, consciously, we've got some debt service coming on track in the next couple of years for a new school, so we've gotta be aware of it, but if we build it into a schedule and do it over time, Mr. Toddy, one of the smartest guys I know, minus the tractor thing, which we bought, we're making him look bad for it. That's kind of the point, there's no reason why we can't figure out how to schedule this out in a manner where we're not over committed and not impacting the debt service, but at least we have an action plan.
I agree. Anybody else have anything? Go ahead.
So, Mr. Toddy, have you had discussions with Mr. Hebert about, as far as like the layout? I wouldn't expect you to lay it out, right? I would expect the input from the athletic department, from,
Sure, extent of conversations I've had with him was, he asked, hey, if I get this, can you support putting it in? And I said, I could support putting it in to the tune of maybe one a year for the next 9 years, right? So it's, if we want to do better than that, we need to plan better than that.
Has there been any mention of volunteer help as far as?
The conversation has not gone that far at all, no, sir.
All right, thank you.
So we don't need a motion? Do we need a motion to accept the gift, or?
New policy.
You can.
We can,
Formalize.
yeah, we can always bring our motion.
Yeah.
Did you already accept the gift?
No, it's, verbally, we said we're interested, but the gift is physically not been received.
I would accept it because you're accepting property.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll make a motion to accept the disc golf baskets as donated by the Rochester Recreation Park.
Do we have a
The
second?
amount of,
Whatever the basket's value is. I have no idea what the value is.
we're gonna accept the gift and we don't know the value of it?
Yes. You do it.
Priceless.
You do it every Christmas.
I'm not familiar with it, but it's okay. It's not how I do business.
Merry Christmas.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Oh, no.
We show, see a show of hands. All in favor? Opposed?
Oh, wait,
No.
You're not on this.
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
So 2 no's, Sandy and I are no's.
Who knows?
Thank you. 5-year plan, I think we've already talked about it.
We're good there.
So, sorry, if I can. It's on the website, let me pull it up real fast. 5-year plan for building. There we go. Strategic goals, arts and drama, eliminate modulars, and study of athletic complex. I'd be inclined to make a motion to move that to priority 1. We know where modulars stand because of what we have going on with the JVC. We're redoing the music room now because of forced.
Is it, oh, is it to the point that it's actually,
We've approved the
Design
funding
phase.
for it and everything, so that's gonna be a go. We have to replace that floor, so
right, exactly.
in regards to that, I think that they're getting enough to move forward, but the athletic complex, the track is going to be a problem, so we should probably really start digging into what we're gonna do schedule-wise
Okay.
for this, so I would be inclined to make the motion to move new study of athletic complex across all schools to item number 1 on the 5-year agenda.
I'll second that. Any discussion about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Did you have discussion?
It's a moot point.
Sorry.
No, it's no problem.
If I may. I just wanted to comment on the track. Mr. Toddy and I have been talking about the track as it's part of the 5-year plan for athletics. And knowing that the track is used by our community, I have standing meetings with the city manager, so I'm gonna be discussing that topic as it would impact, probably, it could impact both of the capital improvement plans, both on the city side and the school side. So we'll be discussing that and we'll share more in the future.
Go ahead, Paul.
Kyle, I don't know if this is capable or not, but we have what's the city development fund, I'm thinking about, Sandy, the block grants?
Oh,
CDBG.
Thank you, yes. Is that eligible for that?
It could be a portion of it, so that we will talk about all those options.
I was thinking about that. Thank you.
Oh, Shane, go ahead.
When it comes to the track, the city, are they responsible for partially replacing them one time, or is that all on us?
I believe that's what Mr. Ricky.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about, because again, as you go up there, there's signs, it is a public facility, and during the day, people can and do access it.
Exactly.
So it's just one of those things, we're gonna enter into conversation about how we pay for it, because the substrate beneath the track has failed to the point where installers have said, until you fix the substrate, we will not resurface this. So as the surface breaks down, we cannot get it fixed until we tear the whole thing out, put new substrate, and then add the track back. So it will be a larger cost item in the future, and that's why it's on my agenda with the city manager.
Because I'm all for letting the public come in, run the track and everything, but if we're 100% responsible to replace it, then I think maybe then we don't offer it up to the public to use. I hate to do that, but unfortunately, I think if the city's not gonna help on their own.
That's not really how it's structured, but I agree with what you're saying. We had this conversation when we resurfaced it last time, and we asked the city to contribute, and there were some conversations back and forth. At the time, Mr. Hopkins was there, correct?
Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Bickford last time, that track was
Yeah, so,
serviced.
yeah, I remember having the conversation, and we talked about the next time we do this, we're gonna have to rip the whole thing out. And the city council was engaged in the conversation, but it wasn't such an exponential cost that we needed them to step in when we did the resurfacing. So we had conversations then, and they weren't non-receptive, is probably the best way to say it. They were open to the dialogue, and they weren't willing to foot the bill, but they were not afraid to contribute at the time. Now, you have a new set of city councilors, new school board members, you'll have to have those discussions again, but that's where you are.
City pays for the lights.
I didn't hear you.
Mr. Toddy found out last week for me that the city pays,
That
the city pays for the lights.
that was with regard to the tennis court.
Tennis courts.
The lights on our track are ours.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Any public comment? Oh, okay, read the statement. Publicly communicating false statements about people that defame, I'm sorry. Read it for me, what do you think?
Yep. Publicly communicating false statements about people that defame them could subject the speaker to both criminal and civil liability in the state of New Hampshire. In that vein, statements made at public input or at public hearings are not immune from potential consequences for their words. Furthermore, the fact that the public body does not prevent these statements from being made does not excuse or endorse those statements. It just means that the public body, in this case the school board, both recognizes and respects the right to free speech enshrined in the First Amendment to our Constitution.
And if you could please identify yourself and your ward.
Okay. My name is Damon Conner. I am in Ward 1, I believe, in East Rochester. I'm here for a request. We're going to call it a fallback or a fail-safe request because it's still a little bit in flux of everything that's going on. It's not going to get as controversial or as deep as disc golf, but it's easy enough. So I was born and raised here, lifelong resident. My mom taught first grade here in Rochester for 34 years. Almost all of that was in the East Rochester Annex, the Nancy Loud School. Things have been going on with the school, with the closure, with the foundation, with that and everything. I noticed that we took the sign down. What I'm requesting is, if that nothing is going to happen with that sign, except sit in storage and potentially be dumpstered, I wanted to take that sign and bring it to Nancy. Nancy was my mom's best friend for years. She spoke at her funeral recently, and I kind of wanted to surprise her with the sign, or any signage that comes from that school, right? I mean, it's still open on what's going on. We could be taking that sign and putting it somewhere maybe. We could be dedicating something else to Nancy. I don't know, I'm not sure you guys even know yet. But my fail-safe is, don't throw it in the dumpster. I'm requesting it. And I'm gonna give it to Nancy. I'm either gonna mount it as it is in her backyard, or I'm gonna put it in her barn. She doesn't know this yet, but she may. It's supposed to be a surprise, we'll see. You know, I think she'd appreciate it. So that's great. So I'll leave, Sarah has my contact info, but I'll also leave it with Mr. Chardy here too, because he sounds like he's in physical control of the sign, correct?
He's in charge.
Yeah, in charge of the sign, okay. So,
That's great.
thoughts?
I know she'll love that.
Yeah.
Love it, yeah, love it.
All right, that was it for tonight. I got reports tonight. Thanks for your time. I'll let you guys get back to the disc golf or whatever else is coming up.
There you go.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Contact me when anything comes up.
Any other
Thank
public
you.
comment?
Thanks.
Okay, anything under other? Of course you do.
Let's stop it.
Oh,
Mr. Toddy, do you see any objection to that sign being given to that young man?
No, we would never throw it away. I still have out in the barn the new East Rochester School sign. I've got a collection of signs out there. I think they're of historical significance. That's certainly something I would never want to see put in a dumpster. In fact, I have two signs for that school. I have the Nancy Loud sign when it was named for Nancy Loud. And I had the sign, I still have the sign that came down when that one went up. I have no objections. I would caution that it's maybe like giving someone a puppy for Christmas who didn't know they were getting a puppy for Christmas, because it's big. And I heard talk about we're gonna sneak in someone's backyard and install it, and they were gonna wake up and find it there, and it might not be a great, you know what I mean? Like, I would just ask that we really consider what we're gonna do with it, because it's big. If you drive by it on the street, you don't realize how big it is. It's big. It's bigger than that TV, for sure.
As Dave mentioned, he's got the signs. The Historical Society has also talked to us about preserving things, so that was another thing. I think there's the annex signs, the Nancy Loud sign. I believe there's an 1880 placard on the building, and we've asked the city, as they consider what they're gonna do for it, that perhaps we could take that down as well, because if you think about it, a Civil War veteran could have built that school, so it's kind of impressive. So there are lots of things we're working with the city on.
So, Mr. Toddy, if you would be so kind, and if I could ask your permission, if we were to give this gentleman her sign, right, and he decides that Miss Loud figures out she doesn't want that when she's entertaining guests in her backyard, would you be receptive to taking it back?
Sure, yes. But let's qualify that. The sign gets installed.
Yep.
And landscaped, and somebody doesn't like it, now am I landscaping someone's
No,
backyard?
absolutely
Like,
not. As soon as he takes possession, it's his problem.
Yeah.
If he does this and Miss Loud decides it's not the best interest for her, he can bring it back to you, we're happy to take it back.
We would be
That
happy
would be
to.
the intention I'm asking.
I completely agree with him about it should never end up in a dumpster.
I agree.
Like, I agree, so if
Yep.
somebody had it and didn't want it, I would make something work, because it's not going into a dumpster.
Shane?
I think it's a great idea, but Kyle, you said something about the Historical Society. Should we ask them what they had plans possibly with either one of these signs before we offer it up to somebody from the public? Which, like I said, it's a great idea, but there could have been somewhere where everybody might be able to still be able to see it, where they wanted to showcase it before we did that.
Have you been to the Historical Society?
No, I have not.
They have multiple signs upstairs in their second floor. It gets a little crowded when you have a sign that size, though, so I'm not sure exactly what they would do. They would probably bring it out for special events.
Only reason I'm saying this is because I know how important that school was to a lot of people.
Sure.
So before we offer it to, obviously, who the school is named after, should we think about everybody?
Yeah, I would just caution people, Mr. Tardy might be on the right track. She has a relatively small house with a one-car garage and a small lot, so she may very well say, thank you very much, but no thanks.
Great.
Karen's first.
Oh, Karen.
I mean, he just gave you his card, so I
Yes, I
mean,
have his
we
card.
could reach out to him and say, do you need the measurements first? Because, I mean, it's a great idea, I mean, we have two, so yeah, give him one.
Only one says Nancy Loud, the other
Okay.
says annex.
Okay, but I mean, if he's saying the measurements are fine, and he maybe have him talk to her ahead of time, but I mean, the school is named
Maybe
after
she's
her,
watching
so.
tonight's show, but.
Go Nancy! I'm just kidding.
I'd like to make a motion to empower Mr. Toddy to check with the collective bodies of the HDCs to make sure they're not an objection to, and if he is interested, and Nancy approves, it has to be a zero-cost transition. We're not maintaining it, we're not dropping it off, we're not picking it up. If I get it, and if it doesn't work, he can bring it back. That's the motion I would be moving.
Second. Oh, wait, no.
I'll second.
Matt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, thank you. And anything else for the other?
No.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.